This is the third video in the beginning guide on how to use Arnold in Cinema 4D. I'll be covering how to make realistic shaders, so let's get started. Let's start with the scene setup. For this setup I have Arnold's camera with a focal length of 35, Arnold sky with an HDRI image on it, a background object which is a backdrop, a simple cylinder as my base, and a sphere so we can test our shaders on it. So let's start by making our first shader. That will be a plastic shader. Click on this ball here to show your material manager. I already have my stand and background shaders ready for this. So head to create and then Arnold surface and click on standard surface. Select your sphere from the object manager and apply the standard surface shader to it. Now run the IBR and in the material manager use the middle mouse button to click on the shader. It will open the shader network editor for you. In the shader network editor, under the main tab, you will find some presets for plastic, metals, glass, skin, and thin shaders. You can use any of these to start making your own. Let's start by choosing plastic and then head to base. Let's start by changing the color in the base channel. Instead of this white color, let's use a bluish color like this. And since we're trying to achieve a realistic shader, we will need a texture map to drive our specular roughness with it. I'll go ahead and grab my texture. In the image attributes, under the color space, you'll find it on auto. Change that to be a row. From the output of the texture that we have added, we will drag and go to this bluish box here, drop it there, and then from main specular, we'll choose roughness. The effect started to appear in the sphere. And if we want to control this effect, we will have to add a ramp float node. So make sure that you've selected the image and now press Ctrl tab and type ramp. You'll find the ramp float node, double click on it and then choose input and it will automatically attach itself to the roughness channel. Now click on the ramp float node and on the right change the type. Instead of view, choose custom. Make sure that you've selected the ramp float node and then press Alt W and then 1. It allows us to see how our texture is projected on the surface of the sphere. In the network editor, click on show in separate window so that we can get a better and bigger curve that we can control. You will find 2 points on the curve. Each controls a light or a dark area of the texture. This one here on the right controls the light areas, as you can see. Whenever I go to the right, it goes black. And the other dot here controls the dark areas. If I want to make it darker or lighter, if I want to make it darker, I'll just grab it to the right. If I want it lighter, I can just drag it up or to the left. Let's minimize this. Select the standard surface node and then Alt W1 again so that we attach it normally to the output of the shader. Now click back again on the ramp float and click on show in separate window and let's make it darker like this. You will notice that the effect of the reflection is starting to appear more. Now let's play with these dots here so that we can control the reflection amount and the darker and the rougher areas on the sphere. If I pull this dot down, it will make the lighter area darker, and let's see how will this affect the reflection. We're starting to see a more definite reflections on these darker areas that we have made darker. It was lighter in the start, so if we increase them again to make them lighter like this, we would get a rougher reflections, almost blurred out. And the same goes for the other dot, but it controls the darker area of the original map. Let's try make it darker. Let's have a final look at the original texture after we applied the RAM float node. Click on the RAM float node in the shader network editor and then press Alt W1. So this is our texture after we have applied the RAM float. Click again on show in separate window and let's make the lighter area darker like this. Head back to the editor, click on it, and now let's see the effect that we have made. Click on the standard surface, click on Alt W and then 1. I'll let it render so that we get a clearer image. When we made the lighter areas darker, it resulted in more definite reflections on the sphere. And now let's move on and add a bump node to the shader. Click anywhere in the network editor and then press Ctrl Tab and type bump to 2D. Double click on it, it will be added. From the output of the ramp float node, drag and go to the bump 2D node and choose main bump map. From the output of the bump 2D node, drag and drop it on the standard surface. From main, go to geometry and choose normal. We started to see the effect on the sphere immediately, but it's too harsh. Let's decrease the amount of it. Instead of 1 centimeter, let's go for 0.1. It looks much better, but let's take it one step further. Click again inside the network editor, press Ctrl Tab and type noise. Choose noise. Make sure that you've selected the noise node and then press Alt W1. Head to the coordinates tab and under scale, let's make it 15. After that, let's add a bump to the node. Click on Ctrl Tab and type bump. Choose bump to the node. Attach it to bump map. From the second bump to the node, from the output, drag it and drop it on the first bump to the node. From main, choose normal. Click on the standard surface shader and then Alt W1. You will immediately see the effect of the second bump node that we used the noise to drive. The effect is too much, let's reduce it. Click on the second bump to the node and instead of 1, let's use 0.5. Let's increase it to 0.1. Let's increase it to 0.2. And let me show you how it looks. And that's it for the plastic shader. Let's start making our leather shader. Head to create Arnold surface standard surface shader. Use the middle mouse button to click on the standard surface shader that we've just added. It will open the network editor. I already have the leather textures that I need ready, so I'll just drop them here. I'll change the color space of the colored image. Instead of auto, I'll choose sRGB, and then I'll attach it to the standard surface shader under main, base, and then color. It will take some time to generate the TX file that Arnold used to generate the textures. Don't forget to apply your standard surface to the sphere and give it some time. Click on the depth map and then press on Ctrl Tab. Add a bump to the node. Choose bump map and attach it to the standard surface shader. From main, geometry, click on normal. It feels like we need to reduce the texture to be more fitting on the sphere. Select the two textures together and hit to UV coordinates, and on the scale lower to 0.2. You'll start to see the leather pattern on the sphere. To make it look better and more realistic, we need a roughness map. I'll use the one that I've used for the plastic shader. I'll drop it here and attach it directly to the standard surface shader. So under main, specular, roughness, it needs some adjustments, so I'll add a ramp float node. But I'm still selecting the image that I've just added. I'll hit and press on Ctrl Tab, and then I'll type ramp and choose the ramp float node input, and instead of U on the type, I'll change it to custom, and then I'll press on show in separate window. I just noticed that the bump is too much. I'll reduce it first to something like 0.1. Again from the standard surface shader, again from the ramp float node, I'll choose it again and press on show in separate window. Now I have my curve that I need to adjust to so it have a better looking reflections. I'll minimize it for now and click on the ramp float node and then press on Alt W1 to see how it is sitting on our sphere. So these are the light areas. So again, press on show on separate window and decrease the amount of the lighter areas to make it a bit darker, and do the opposite for the darker areas. Let's make it lighter and minimize it. Press on the standard surface shader and again press on Alt W1. I'll let it render and then show you the result. And this is the final result. And that's it for the leather shader. Now let's make our final shader that will be a wood one. Again from create, Arnold surface, standard surface shader, apply it to the sphere and open its network shader editor. I have my wood textures ready. I'll just drag and drop them here. For the albedo map, I'll change it instead of auto in the color space. It will be sRGB, and for the reflection, I'll change it to raw. Now from the albedo map on the output, drag it and drop it into the base color, and for the reflection, drop it on main, specular, and then roughness. Let's add some bump into this. Make sure you've selected the reflection image and then press Ctrl Tab and add a bump 2D node. Choose bump map. From the bump 2D node, drag and drop it on the standard surface shader and go to geometry and then normal. And from image, drag and drop it onto the roughness specular main. Let's lower the bump to around 0.3, and there is almost no reflections at all. Let's fix that by adding a ramp float node to the reflection. Make sure you've selected the right reflection node and then press Ctrl Tab and add a ramp float. Choose input and then choose the second one, standard surface roughness. From the ramp float node, under type, change it from U to custom and click on show on separate window. If we grab the upper dot and drag it down, we start to see that we have the effect of the mirror on top of our wood. But the effect is too much, let's reduce it. It's almost at 0.1. Let's go around 0.6. Let's decrease it a bit. Now I'll let it finish rendering to show you the final result. And this is the final result. And that's it for our wood shader. And that was part 1 from our shader episode. Hope you liked it.